So I'm here in Tshivhilwi, which is very close to Thohoyandou in the northern part of Mzansi. I'll be talking to Lavhengwa Nemaorani. He's a second generation farmer. This whole operation here was started by his father, the legendary Israel, and he is continuing with his father's legacy. Morning, 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 morning.
Good morning, Tony.
Lavhengwa, nice meeting you. You well?
I'm okay, and you?
Good, very good. Listen, it's early morning. I always start my mornings with a coffee. Can I get your coffee?
That would be
I
wonderful.
brought some. Lovely, lovely. Lavhengwa, thank you so much for inviting us onto your farm. Good to see you. Now, talk to us firstly about how on earth did you become a farmer? Where did it all start for you?
Well, basically, my father is the one that started this whole operation while we were still schooling in Joburg.
Yeah.
So when we moved back, my dad had a passion for agriculture, obviously.
Yeah.
And then from there, when I matriculated, that's when I actually went to agricultural college in Nelspruit.
Yeah.
That's where I did agriculture. And then basically after my studies, I worked for the Duroy Group of companies, which is found here in Letsetele. That's where they took me throughout their whole operations from the nursery to the fields, to the pack houses, you know, office work, and then I just got familiar with that.
Yeah.
Until my dad said I must come and help him out here on the farm.
Now, as a young man, I mean, you matriculate and then you're going to agricultural college. Was there anything else that you wanted to do at that point? Because we know a lot of youngsters tend to shy away a bit from farming.
Farming wasn't my number one choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But basically, I had applied for business management in Pretoria. But then my dad says, no, I'm not going to Pretoria. I have to go and do agriculture.
Yeah. So your father played a big role in this. Where did his love for farming come from?
Well, my grandfather was actually a tobacco farmer, but a very small scale tobacco farmer.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's where my dad got the passion for farming. And obviously my dad would, you know, travel across South Africa, talk to commercial farmers, and then, you know, get information from those guys, and then he would implement it slowly, but then this is where we are at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sensing your father did play a big role here. What's the one piece of advice that's always stuck with you that came from your father?
Every time I talk to my father, he just said, Lavhengwa, you know what, this job is very difficult, but then just hold on and be patient. Patient and hard work.
Yeah.
Hard work. That's the advice that my dad told me. Listen, if you are hands-on and you lead by example, then the workers will automatically follow. You cannot manage this kind of operation through a phone. So you have to be hands-on. You must know exactly what is happening.
Yeah. Do you feel any pressure because your dad was a successful businessman and you was a community leader to a certain extent?
Definitely, because, you know, everyone is looking at me and what I'm gonna do next. So there is pressure from outside, even from inside.
Yeah.
Because remember, I have to fill my dad's shoes, but then they're too big. But then the only thing I can do is just try and fill them.
No, 100%. All right, so let's talk about you know, the farming operation itself. I mean, this is a difficult job, and you mentioned patience because you're farming citrus here, and it's really a waiting game, isn't it?
Yes.
What's the one consistent thing that you do that keeps this operation running?
Basically, the way I see it, I'm not a jack of all trades. But then one thing I like about myself is if I don't know something, I get on the phone and ask people that do. So I don't make mistakes. If I'm not certain about anything, there's a lot of farmers that are willing to help and are willing to give me their time. So that's one thing. I'm not big-headed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I try, if I don't understand something, I get on the phone and say, listen, I need clarity on this. Can I do this? Can I not do this? I think that's one trait that I like about myself, and that's one trait that has gotten me this far.
So you've come this far now, you've taken over this particular operation. You have your own kids now, you've got your own family. Just maybe take us through your family, yourself and your wife and your kids.
Well, I've got 4 kids. I've got one son, my firstborn.
Yeah.
Every time he's on the farm with me on weekends. And then my other 3 daughters, they also enjoy coming on weekends and just roaming around the farm with the mother and everything. Obviously, my wife, I work with my wife, which is not easy, but then...
Trust me, I know.
Working with my husband has its challenges. We have a lot of fights, and they tend not to stay at work sometimes. But we quickly adjust to it and try and work just to move forward and not dwell on things. But it has its challenges, but it's everything I want. What I dream for the farm, I would like the farm to give more than it is giving right now. Because basically right now, we're just giving employment. I would like to give the community far more than just employment. I would want them to say, we are grateful that that farm is in our community because they can point to something and say, this is what they've done for us. And for myself, I'm living the dream.
What's your typical morning like here on the farm?
5 o'clock we wake up, 6:30 I'm here at the farm. You know, just get things in order.
Yeah.
In order, so people, because obviously I cannot come to work at 8 o'clock, otherwise the workers will take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So basically first one in, last one out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be done.
It's a tough life, isn't it? And that's where the difficult part to get those youngsters to be interested in farming, isn't it?
It's tough, but then it's a lifestyle, and you have to enjoy it. Because as young as I am, I still want to explore, but then I've gotten used to being on the farm that it's no longer work for me. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah. It becomes your life. You've got to, are you saying you have to love what you do if you're going to be a farmer?
Yeah. You have to have discipline and patience, because anything can happen, anything at any time.
So I got a chance to see a little bit of your operation when I was driving in. We finished our coffee. Are you ready to show me the rest of your farm?
No problem, let's go on.
Fantastic, let's go for it. Zanzi, welcome back. Now, earlier on we spoke to Lavhengwa about the legacy behind this particular operation. Now, I want to find out from him the actual nuts and bolts behind everything that we're seeing here, how big his piece of land is, and also we'll talk to him about his crops and his markets. So Lavhengwa, tell me where we are and why we're doing exactly what we're doing.
Well, we're at the banana packing facility. This is where we process the bananas from the field to the crates and then into the ripening rooms.
Okay.
But then what I do with the bananas is usually for local market, for the bucky guys.
Okay.
Yeah, that's basically my only market for bananas.
So you say the bucky guys is the guys that come and buy from you, then go with the small shops, the town, maybe sell at the market.
Sector, yes.
Informal sector.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. We've got the guys doing a bit of work behind us. Just tell us what they're doing. What is this? They're putting the bananas in there.
So basically this is just a fungicide bath, just for the diseases and all that stuff. As you can see that the guys are cutting there.
Yeah.
You find that some people prefer their bananas in hands like these.
Yeah.
But then others just prefer them, we call them one-ones.
The single.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
so this would be a hand when you go and buy it. This is what you call a hand.
A hand,
We
yes.
call it a bunch.
A bunch, yeah.
Normal people like us call this a bunch of bananas.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the farm itself now. How big a piece of land do you have?
Well, the farm is basically 202 hectares. Yeah, then we've got 110 hectares under citrus.
Yeah.
Then we've got 20 hectares on bananas. Then we've got another 10 hectares on mangoes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know you want to move away from the mango portion of it and move to what you're calling soft fruit, or I'm saying it wrong here, soft citrus. Explain to us exactly what that is. What is soft citrus?
Well, soft citrus in South African language is a nachi. Yeah, but then you see, there's different types of nachis, but then they are more popular because they're easy to peel. So it's very user-friendly for kids and all that stuff, and mostly are virtually seedless. The problem with the mangoes, the insects affect my citrus, so it's best I should just concentrate on citrus.
So what's your primary market?
My biggest market is obviously it's the export market, which is EU.
Yeah.
But then we also go to Russia, we go to Middle East. Last year I went to Bangladesh. Well, it was the first time I actually did that.
Exporting to Bangladesh.
Yeah, to Bangladesh.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And I'm sure they've got a lot of laws and there's so many do's and don'ts in terms, especially the EU. How do you prepare for that?
Now, there's documentations that we have to put in place. There's audits that we do every year. It's a global gap audit. Make sure that the workers' health and safety is in place. All the chemicals that we're using are in line with the requirements overseas.
Yeah.
The whole farm, basically, from the field to the packing facility, everything has to be audited and everything has to be in line with the industry requirements.
Okay.
Because remember, safety first.
So you mentioned GAP. Can you just explain to us exactly what that is and why it's critical for you?
Oh, it's global gap. The GAP is good agricultural practices. So without that certificate, your fruit is not going anywhere.
When you talk about global, obviously, you want to expand. Anybody in business wants to expand their business. And how important is automation to that for that process to happen?
There's certain markets that I cannot go into. And obviously, it's lucrative markets like China.
Yeah.
Because those guys want fruit which doesn't even have one single mark. So with my machines, I cannot reach that standard. So I have to get in place things like optic sizes, that the camera is the one that determines the quality of the fruit.
So what assistance do you need for you to be able to take that next step?
That machine basically can take me to that next level.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because obviously that machine packs soft citrus and hard fruit.
Yeah.
And it's very fast. So what I do in a week, that machine can actually make me do that in 2 days.
Wow. Yeah. It's a big difference, eh?
Yes.
Who would you be looking to assist you, I suppose, to a certain extent?
Well, obviously,
you're knocking on government's doors.
Government would be the best option.
Yeah.
Well, government in line with banks or IDC, that could actually come in handy. Actually, I'd really appreciate if they can come on board and assist in that manner.
At peak, which I'm going to assume peak would be harvesting time.
Yes.
How many people are you employing?
Well, last year we actually had 120 people, but then the majority of that number is pickers.
Yeah.
And then in the pack house, we probably use with 40 just to pack the fruit and put it into boxes.
So early on when we were having our coffee, you also mentioned your wife is participating in your business. And like me, I hate the office. I hate admin. Is she assisting you with your admin?
Yes, she does the most important job on the farm. Without her, there's no farm, basically. So she does all the administration. She's the one that communicates with the clients. She's the one that basically is holding up this whole operation. And without her, basically, as I said, there is no farming without her.
Listen, I hope I'm not messing this up, eh?
No, you're doing quite a good job.
This one is open.
No,
I don't think anyone's going to be able to.
You failed. Yeah,
I failed, That's why I've got to learn from you guys. Okay, so when you plant, the fruit grows or the tree starts to grow, what's your biggest enemy out there in the field on the land?
Well, there's a lot of things because we're working with nature, and what nature did shows you cannot change.
Yeah.
Because like recently I had some hail damage. There's nothing I can do. That fruit has to go to juice. See, but then we've got diseases. You have to be 100% focused to actually make it, because anything can happen at any time.
So lastly, I have to ask you this, because from my restaurants, what do you think I can add to my menu using your produce?
A juicy fruit salad.
Fruit salad?
Yeah.
Do you make fruit salad?
I can try.
Okay. All right, we can try fruit salad because we've got banana, we've got orange, we've also got mango. Yeah, it could work.
Let's try it out.
All right, I'll try it out. Thank you. So, Lavhengwa, this is a question that we ask all of our farmers. Very simple question. If you had one wish, just one wish that could come true for your operation and even for yourself, what would that wish be?
With government assistance, I would really love to expand, plant more citrus, plant more bananas, and I'd really love to be a proper example to upcoming farmers, the youth especially. I'd love them to be exposed to this kind of lifestyle.
What a guy, what a farmer. I'm thrilled that I got to see how Lavhengwa Nemaorani is keeping his father's legacy alive. And I'm sure that he's looking down on him with immense pride.
Welcome back, Mzansi, to African farming. Now, handing over the reins of a farming operation from one generation to the next requires continuity of those winning elements that make the operation a success. And there's no doubt that farmer Lavhengwa Nemaorani has continued his father's legacy, choosing carefully which elements to keep and where change is necessary for growth. Now, here to talk about the importance of continuity for any farming operation are our panel of agricultural gurus. Welcome once again, gentlemen, starting with Nico Groeneveld from Standard Bank. Nico, you well?
Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Dr. Bati Dungu joins us again from AfriVet. Doc, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Praveen Dwarika from Limang. Praveen, good to see you as always.
Good to be here. Thanks, Tony.
All right. Louis Stale from Bonsmara SA. Louis, you well?
Thanks. Nice to be here, Tony.
Okay, so we're looking at continuity in a farming operation. Nico, from a financial perspective, how important is it and how can one manage that transition?
I think handing over the baton is one of the most important events from a risk perspective, specifically from a financial risk perspective where financiers sit at the back, because you physically hand over the whole management and control of a operation to somebody else. So it's critically important that one plans that properly and that the second generation that comes in is taken into confidence early into not just the operating side of the business, but also the planning and the strategic side of the business. So that if that baton is handed over, that he or she then can comfortably also demonstrate and explain the strategy of the business to stakeholders outside.
I suppose internally from the bank as well, that's also important, is it, from a relationship perspective?
Yes, as I say, for us, that is a specific risk event. So we need to understand properly who would be the new manager, owner of the business, and what his thinking of the future would be, if it is consistent with what we've seen in the past, and would he be able to carry on that path of consistency going forward.
Praveen, coming to you, farming operations are critical in the country. We all know that. And it's also critical that handover process is very important. Why do you feel it's important?
We're dealing with food security. We're dealing with livelihoods. We're dealing with building an agri-business. So I think what we need to always keep in mind is that, like Nico mentioned, upskilling the next generation to take over. You can never plan for these unforeseen circumstances, of course. So therefore, planning needs to be part of the day-to-day routine on a farm. Have the next generation of farmer already getting involved in the strategic issues as well, because stakeholder relations in farming should never be underestimated. Your partnerships with your agribusinesses, your relationships with your bankers, your input suppliers, your off-takers. Farming is about trust, and a generation builds trust with its stakeholders. So to ensure that continuity in the business operations, but also the consistency with which the farm delivers, the consistency with which you negotiate, the consistency with which you keep to your promises, because that's what farming is about. So make sure that the next generation is always ready to take over on a continuous basis.
Well, Doc, please talk to me about how continuity contributes to effective health management.
One have to take to realize the fact that animal health is an investment. So you need to put in place a plan for controlling animal disease, because they contribute to improved productivity in the livestock. So an animal health program has to be consistent in a farm, so that you improve continuously the health of the animal, and also contribute to productivity, improve productivity, as well as animal welfare. So continuity becomes extremely important, that there is a good level of consistency in how the animals and the productivity is improved.
Now, Louis, coming to you, when it comes to auctions and breeders, we heard the doc talk about consistency. Is it the same when it comes to genetics?
I think it's very based on the same principle. And the thing with genetics is genetics takes a very long time to build up. And so you've got to start building your brand as a seller of livestock very early. Because at the end of the day, if you go to an auction, you've got a reputation that you have to uphold, and that must be a good reputation. We always say 1,000 good animals can do very good for you, but one bad animal that you sell is going to break down your reputation. So that's why in the genetics industry, there's lots of marketing as well involved, and it all starts with the brand that you start from the beginning when you start with cattle breeding. Even if you're not a stud breeder, not a stud breeder, you start from that and you must work up, and your brand is always defined with your reputation that you have in the auction crawl.
So Louis, listening to you, you're saying if I'm going to an auction and I want to buy some sort of livestock, that continuity is important because I must trust the farmer, the generational aspect, the breeding aspect from that farming operation.
Yes, and that's why start building your brand today, not tomorrow.
Praveen, any last word when it comes to continuity? What would you advise family farmers?
Engage with your stakeholders, keep that discussion going all of the time. Where there's a possibility to do formal training and skills transfer, embrace that by all means.
Doc, your comment?
My last comment for continuity, I would advise the farmer to continue with the program they've been established with the veterinarians that have been working on that farm.
And Nico, from a continuity aspect, one farmer or the one generation is passing on the books to the other generation, aren't they, as well?
Yes, and I think that continuity should not be limited to the operational side of farming only, but most important, make sure that continuity from a strategic and from a financial planning perspective is also included.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So as always, we value the wisdom of our panel, and to today's farmer, Lavhengwa Nemaorani, may your success continue to the next generation and of course to the next generation. And Mzansi, don't forget, you can find us at hashtag African Farming, and also go around and have a look at our website, africanfarming.com, for more info. And please remember, we farm better together. African Farming recently held a Farmers' Day in Polokwane, sponsored by Elanco and Flay Central, and we caught up with some of the speakers attending.
African Farming Farmers' Day, Polokwane. What a day. Over 300 people that attended.
There's a lot of positive stuff that comes out of advice that's come out of today's Farmers' Day. I mean, the guys that's here that's attended can really use this information and they can practice it on their farms.
My message would be the farmers should always go out and attend such events. It doesn't have to be just our events, but they must be part of the Farmers' Days because that's where they're going to get the information from.
We've got to succeed, work together to feed the nation.